really lovely to see the turnout. I'm Kath down. You can't hear? Is that better? I've got it as close to my mouth as I can, so yeah, whoever uses this next. I'm Kath Down. You'll know me from Save Our Southern Gold Coast. I was the founder and president of Save Our Southern Gold Coast, but I've been doing community work for the last 3.5 years, talking about the development and the overdevelopment versus light rail and alternatives, but also looking at our pristine waterways, keeping them that way, talking about sewerage, talking about whatever is your issue, because this is your meeting in your area. So that's what's important, that we're covering what you want to talk about tonight. And a small description of myself, 5 minutes from 2 key speakers, and Jim Wilson here is going to be our moderator to keep us on track. Wait us out. All right, then. So a little bit about myself. I've been living on the coast for 27 years. I've raised 2 children here. I've gone from living in the valley to the beaches, so I understand the issues of both. This will be the first of a series of meetings that we will do that will address what's important to the communities in that area. So tonight we're particularly concentrating on what's happening in Tubin, Currumbin and the surrounding areas here, and there's going to be plenty of time for Q&A because that's what this is all about. So yeah, I've been here 27 years, raised 2 children. I come from a pharmaceutical background. I had a family business which was around lighting, architectural lighting, things like the Olympics in Sydney, business-based lighting. So I've been here and I've been seeing so many things happening, and I don't feel that the communities really have much of a voice. And that's what I want to change. That's what I'm here to do. And it's not me all talking about me unless you want to ask me particular questions, but it's about understanding what's important to you and what we can do about it. So you can look at the history. You've each got a flyer on your seats. That flyer has a QR code that goes to our website. And there's lots of drop-down boxes about what I stand for and what I've done in the past. I've been in meetings with state and federal government, and it's been through persistence and hard work. And that's what I promise you, a voice, persistence and hard work, but also transparency and open for you to be able to come and visit your councillor when you choose to see me. I feel positive. So I would really like to start off by introducing Jim, and then we're going to move on and we will get to the important part, which is what you need to hear.
Thank you, Kath. Jim Wilson is my name. I'm a solicitor for my sins. This is the 3rd meeting of yours that I have had the pleasure of moderating in the Save Our Southern Gold Coast, the anti-light rail meetings that we've had all over the place. It would appear that I seem to have done a good job, or a reasonable job, because I've been invited back tonight. But the point being that I'd like to think that this meeting is going to run along the same lines as all previous meetings, where intelligence prevails and the right sort of questioning prevails. And I would like to congratulate Kath for the novelty, and I say novelty in the most praiseworthy way, of the way she's structuring these meetings to hear from you, and for you to be able to question her about what she feels about it and what she would think she'll be able to do about it, because that's the real nature of democracy. And I think it's what Kath's been doing for the last 2 to 3, 4 years is questioning the rate of the pace of change, and I think we're all entitled to do that. We live in a beautiful part of the world, in Division 14, from the valleys right through, as Kath said, to the beautiful shorelines. So with that in mind, thank you very much for letting me perform this role. I'd like to call on Mark McGovern to come forward and have something to say, which I'm sure you'll enjoy. Thank you.
Just before we get rolling, purpose here is to ask the question to start with. What's an investment? Talk to your neighbour and say what you think is an investment. Swap notes what you think an investment is all about. Okay. We'll follow up on this theme because the key point that I want to stress today is that we as a community, state, etc., and businesses make investments for good reasons. However, the success rate of investments is increasingly poor. We're not getting the returns for investing in all sorts of things, right? Whether it's a small business, the returns may not be there to expect it. And there's a number of reasons for this. We're not going into the background reasons, but the idea of an investment is critical to develop it. Your parents invested in you going to school, and you developed. And we have recently a whole lot of investments for big infrastructure. And these investments take a lot of money, but they're not paying off. They're wasting money and resources. So, to give you an example, is this the first one?
Yes.
Okay. The light rail. I've spent a bit of time looking at light rail, and since the first announcement, basically, the figures looked too expensive. I also spent a fair bit of time talking with main roads over the years while I worked at QUT. So, what we're doing is that I suggest we've got a fiasco going on. It's financial and otherwise. You might have heard the story of light rail. It started off that inflation's put up. Actually, light rail leads the inflation. Looking at the graph here, this is since 1998, the cost to build roads and bridges in Queensland. Just an index. Here I put in when the light rail announcement was, right, and it was coming in at about 690, and then went to 712 million. Within 2 years, it had gone up to 1.2 billion. It basically almost doubled. And a bit later, it had doubled. Right? So between announcement, before anything much happened, we'd already promised to spend twice as much as we started off with. It doesn't add up. It didn't add up because when you looked at the case study, no new passengers, same speed as buses, the main benefits were things like getting home early. But that doesn't actually put dollars in the bank. Right? So the whole thing was a little bit doubtful. We won't go into the details of the analysis, but what I'm bringing this up to say is the analysis being carried out by governments is fundamentally flawed in a number of areas. The investments they're looking for are ones that they can manage. They're not necessarily ones that are good for communities. We've got this managerialist push through the bureaucracies, which is basically saying, we want this because we can manage it. Is that good for you in the community? No. Not really. So where do you stand in the queue? Well, outside waiting, I think. So what we need to do, I think, as a society, and this is not just in investment, public investment, but in private investment, we need to get back to some basics. We're failing to recognise community needs, geographic and settlement realities, and sound management practices. All those things are there. The rest of it, there's loss of control, there's unacceptable risk, there's imprudent exposures. Right? How are we going to pay off a light rail system which costs $1.5 billion, probably a bit more, with 2 years to run, right? When the interest bill will be somewhere like 60 or 70 million a year, right? Which is not much. Really? No, it's a hell of a lot of money. Right? It's a loss maker if the running costs exceed, so there's no income net. There's an expensive bill to pay for principal, and it's taking primacy and displacing other activities. Okay, so right, we need a full inquiry. Next slide, please. Okay, there are lots of problems like this around. So my suggestion is what we need to do is to talk about the way we frame the discussion. At the moment, the bureaucracy frames it, the politicians sell it, and you receive it like good consumers. Right? And you should take the menu on. The community needs to work the other way around. You need to work out what the investment's going to deliver. You want to get your money back plus a bit. Now the plus a bit is not just the money that comes back, but something better for the community. If you can see the gains for the community, this bit, this bit, and this bit, and you pay the money off, does that sound good? Yeah. So that's the way you would normally approach prudent decision making. You can get your money back, plus there are a few bits and pieces that make the community better, make the industry better, make firms more profitable, make quality of life better, whatever your criteria are. And all I've done here is run down some of the headings you could use. So this is a starting point, and you might be looking at a project where you can say accessibility and amenity are important. We're putting in investment. Accessibility, hang on, light rail 3, no car parking, including 300 metres either side of the track for 3 hours, so you can't actually take your car and park it somewhere convenient. No off-street car parking, no bus interchanges, accessible, no way. So something as simple as that, and yet it's sold as if it's, you know, God's gift. And really basic things that it's going to address. Sorry, is that better? Okay, anyway, we can run through all this sort of stuff. At the end of the day, it's quality of life and intergenerational opportunities that a community tries to do, isn't it? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is just in terms of the light rail performance. Just to give you an idea, this has been powered as Queensland's big success. Fluctuations, COVID came, we've come back. But capacity is only around 9 million trips. Right? We had this about 2.5 million trips on buses before, so the net gains a bit, yes. But it's in a heavily populated area. It's close. The distance from Coolangatta to Broadbeach is the same as from Broadbeach to University Hospital. How many people live between Coolangatta and Broadbeach? Not 10 or 20% of what's on the next thing. So where are the passengers coming from? Some of these really obvious things I think need to look at. So if we do the analysis, we can get to some of these things that are quite important. Next slide, please. Okay, so what I suggest is we need a total refresh, a reset of how we're approaching our public investments, whether they are in local facilities through to transport systems and all the rest. And there'll be lots of we could talk about, come questions. Thanks.
I think the point that's coming out of that for me, and hopefully for you as well, is that this is the sort of questioning that Kath has been doing for a number of years and supported by very scholarly people to help her develop her ideas and to take a fresh look at really what's planned to happen in our community. I'd like to now call on Colin May to come up and say a few words.
I might stand here. Right, if I go up there, I'll fall for sure. That's for sure. Good evening, everybody. Familiar faces from light rail meetings and that we've had in the past. Good to see you again, John. Hello, my name is Colin May. I speak on several occasions about light rail, and I'm very happy to support Kath Down's candidacy as the only candidate for District 14 talking common sense, facts, and encouraging true debate about the viability of light rail. That issue alone gets my support, and since that involvement, I know she's doing a lot of work with Kira Resort, Tourist Resort Park, and a lot of community first activities, so I wish her the best in that. She invited me here today to speak very briefly and to really just touch on and stimulate some Q&A discussions about two engineering issues happening here on the southern end of the Gold Coast. First is the sewage issue, the pollution that occurs in Talabudgera Creek. I won't go into a lot of detail because it's very, very hard to get true facts on this. When I've contacted the treatment plant in Talabudgera, basically they've directed me to the media liaison in council headquarters to get the runaround. But when I search through the media, you start to get a very mixed message, and the frustration I have and the message I have that anyone who is representing you in council should have the facts, should update the media and not just give lip service and cliches for why things go wrong in council. So the first one is the sewage outfall. So Daphne McDonald, she is quoted in the Daily Mail online saying that she understood that on the 17th of December, a 960 millimetre, almost 1 metre diameter sewer main that was being diverted for the M1 works burst and raw sewage went into Talabudgera Creek, causing a shutdown. And that was the end of the story. No details further that were given, no photographs, no evidence, nothing. Then the Daily Mail, next slide please, Margaret. They show a photo taken by Geordie Harris. I don't know if anyone knows the local resident Geordie Harris, but he took this wonderful photo and is quoted in saying that this is the nature of the leak, the smell, the putrid, the pool of raw sewage that was flowing into Talabudgera Creek. Now that's a 4-inch, 100 mil diameter PVC pipe. That's not a 960 millimeter broken sewer main. And I'm not saying there's anything malicious going here, but you wonder why the media reports such a nonsensical story. And we're all fed it. And I won't throw Daphne McDonald under the bus, maybe she didn't know any better. But my point is a councillor should know better, get the facts. The sewage treatment facility, Talabudgera, they have all the facts, all the details about their performance. When there is raw sewage overflows, they are either of technical nature, there's a breakage in the system, or there is a stormwater. Next slide. There's a stormwater inflows. And stormwater inflows, they keep very close data on that, and that is due to illegal plumbing works, which should be checked and cracked down on. I'll jump now quick to the Tiemann Gum, I can never say it properly. Thank you very much. Bridge fiasco, which the Courier Mail now call it the $500,000 per metre bridge. It's become that expensive. And it's now 16 months when it was vastly less than that. I think many people here will be very familiar. It's just up the road. Next slide, and I'll just get to the quote from the local member. That's where it is more recently. We've got lots of photos here. That's lovely. Nice wide pavement. Next slide.
Oh, no, that was your I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'll come back to this one.
Go back to that one.
You can talk to me.
Right. The point we have here is that when asked, the local councillor said that the cost overrun and the delays were due to shortages of labour, materials, and the complexity of the project. Now, I've gone deep into the engineering. I've tracked down the engineers responsible, the piling contractors, and they quoted on their websites, and they say there's nothing unique, nothing challenging at all about this bridge project. Yet, it blows out to these ridiculous numbers. And it's not the first time that happens on the Gold Coast. Those who use Old Coach Road will remember 2 to 3 years ago the upgrade of only 1,200 metres of the road that closed that road to single lane, one-way traffic for 18 months and costed $10 million. These numbers represent poor productivity for your rates. And as someone from an engineering background, it frustrates the hell out of me. Mark spoke about the inflationary effect that we're seeing, partly driven by light rail, and we should demand much better productivity, value for money from our department. We need a councillor who is going to go to the Works Department Director and ask them, no, labour shortages, manpower. No, get the reality, get the facts of why these projects cost so much. Thank you for your time. I hope there's any questions on any engineering aspects in this region. I would love to talk about it. There are a lot of challenges with the light rail and what it will do for the traffic on this side, currently at the Gold Coast Highway up to the bird sanctuary. and the bridge is part of that, and the local council, I'm sure, announced her positivity towards light rail, she would have all the data about the new traffic routes. She should make that transparent, and I hope that through debate she'll be forced to do so. Thank you for your time. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, Colin. Colin mentioned Telebudgera Creek. For those of you that don't know, and probably many do know, it's out near where I live, and from Connection Road upwards is all Division 14. So Connection Road upstream is all Division 14, which is really, really important. That's the area in which I live. So thank you for mentioning that. I'd now like to hand over to Kath, who's going to take us through the format for the evening. Can I just say, before Kath takes the microphone, there are going to be questions and comments invited. Can I just please ask, for the sake of democracy and everybody feeling as if they've had a good opportunity to ask a question and have a say, if you can think about what you're going to ask or say, and make it reasonably short, please, 10 or 15 seconds, so that we can give as many people an opportunity to express their feelings and views or ask their questions as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Margaret, can you flick on to the next page? What we're going to get down to, I have put together some discussion points that people have approached me about. I want for you to have a look at that, but I also want for you to choose your questions, not necessarily just from that, but that's just to give you a few prompts on what we might be able to do to help you ask the questions applicable to what affects your daily life. Because that's what your counsellor is supposed to be doing, presenting you and representing you with information and taking that information to make sure it's acted upon to the best of their capacity. Now, on that list, we've got things like the airport and the council buy-in. We've got Team Mangum Bridge. Now, Colin has touched on this, but for those who really don't have their head across the planning, what is going to happen, that bridge is going to be, that street is going to become a major thoroughfare because they are taking out the Taluna Street intersection. That means anybody in Tugun who wants to head north will not have an opportunity unless they go a long way south. They will be taking Team Mangum Bridge. Now there are employees that I've met that are working on that bridge, and I was looking at it myself, hence asking Colin to do a little bit more research on it. That is going to be a major thoroughfare. Is that something that has been presented to you? This is something you need to be asking questions about. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for you to think about where you are impacted so that we can cover these issues. The Ocean Way, the traffic diversions. I mean, does anyone know about the Ocean Way and what the traffic diversion is going to be? Okay, we've got a couple of locals here who might come up and say a little bit more in question and answer time, but they are going to be closing down part of the Ocean Way in front of Currumbin Beachfront. They're taking away one of the entrances to the surf club, and they're not putting a lollipop person in. There's going to be an immediate reduce of the lane, and while the works is continuing, make it one way, but diversion of traffic. Over 2,000 vehicles a day, including 30 buses, and the trucks that services the businesses on that area are going to be diverted over Woodgie Street. Woodgie Street and Maraba Street. Does anyone know how steep they are? Does anyone know how windy they are? Okay, so this is the kind of thing that is happening, and the locals here know about it, but the wider community is not realising that community consultation at Gold Coast City Council is a tick-a-box exercise. Community consultation across many community issues, for instance the Ocean Way, or whether it be light rail, we've all had that. Artist impressions, there were no engineered drawings. I'm drawing your attention to the fact that you need a councillor who is actually going to do some homework to understand the facts, to be able to bring it to you so that when it comes time for you to vote, You know who's going to stand up for you. You know who's going to go the extra mile and do the research. So, you know, we've got local area, bring back local area planning. The town plan is out the window right now. There was a meeting held last week where Councillor Hamble, who's the planning chairman for Gold Coast City Council, presented. It was an invitation-only event. I wasn't allowed to go, and I know there are others that were not allowed to go. However, even with the select people that were at that meeting, the Friends of Rainbow Bay community page has gone off the Richter scale with people extremely upset. The people who were at the meeting, where we had a Gold Coast engineer invited from Councillor O'Neill, were extraordinarily upset yet again. So these are the things that I think our environment and the wildlife, we're looking at the speed limits up on Simpsons Road. You know, we've got chicanes and limited speed on Doubleview, but we've got a huge koala population and acreage on Simpsons Road, and they won't drop the speed limit or put in some chicanes. So there's a lot of things that are important to different people. Water quality, we've gone there a little bit. Greenmount Surf Club, that's another one, but I'm going to leave it to you. Public transport, trams. Shortly on that one, very simply, you can do whole of Gold Coast City transport with zero emission vehicles for under $500 million. How much Gold Coast Light Rail Stage 3 can that buy you? 2.23 kilometres. So keep that one in top of mind, let alone the fact you're losing access to your amenities. And now, loss of parking and access, you're going to want to talk about that one. So I want to hand over and let you choose where you want to go, and let's see what we can do about it. Yeah, I'll listen to one
Excuse me, Kath. And I'll just try and make sure that we're as fair as possible here before I hand over to Kath. So, would anybody like to nominate something? There's a lady in the front row there, please.
The light rail.
Yeah.
How can we stop it now? How can we stop the light rail now where it is and maybe push it back a bit?
Yep, okay, good question. At the moment, the funding is held up at a federal level. There is currently, we've gone under right to information. We've had lawyers and barristers working on our behalf. We've requested the business cases of stages 1, 2 and 3 and post-completion studies of stages 1 and 2. Stage 1 is over 10 years old. TMR, the Premier's Department, Catherine King, the Minister, Federal Minister of Infrastructure and Infrastructure Australia, have all come back saying either they can't locate it or it doesn't exist. Now, where do we go from there? The Information Commissioner is somebody that's still open with. However, we have gone to the Commonwealth Ombudsman. The Commonwealth Ombudsman, I put the complaint in February last year, and about 2 months ago it was announced they're appointing an investigator. So we are still waiting, and what they are going to be investigating is the communication breakdowns at Catherine King and Infrastructure Australia level. So there is no funding authorised for it at the moment, and we need to keep the pressure on that one, and there are meetings that are still ongoing. In March, there's some pretty big meetings happening just after this election, so it's going to be a very busy time. But we're looking to get statements, to get position statements from both parties, and let's hold them accountable. But in the meantime, we've got the Commonwealth Ombudsman is the next step to go before we start talking with the opposition and with the Labor Party. And so Save Us on Gold Coast team will be certainly on that one and keep on. And it needs your support, by the way. You need to stand up and say, this is not good enough for us. This is robbing you and the rest of Queensland of an awful lot of money and the infrastructure we deserve. So, does that answer the question? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the work that Kath and her committee has put into this what, as she's just described, I think is deserving of a round of applause, because I haven't seen anybody. We appreciate the questions about light rail, but we don't want to make this only a light rail. Thank you very much for your question, but we don't want to make this only a light rail meeting. There are plenty of other things there or that aren't there that you might want to ask Kath about. So who's next, please? Gentleman over here on the left, please.
Just a question about the parking value. Just a question about how much parking are we going to lose in Tugan Village with this light rail, or are we still on the topic? Because as I understand, along Golden Ford Drive, anything on the western side is going for the light rail. So when I come down to Tugan, where do I park to go to the doctors? Where do I park to go to the chemist? Where do I park to go to the post office? And all the other shops along here will lose business because no one will have parking to go and visit the business. So every business along Tugan Village are going to lose business. Full stop.
Correct.
So how much car parking are we going to lose from Tugan Village all the way to Golden Ford Drive? Because you've got excess people who can't find a park in their high-rise on the beachfront, and they're forced to park on Golden Ford Drive on the western side. You have to look in the afternoons, it is chock-a-block full of, because there's more than 1 or 2 cars per unit.
The answer is probably most. Mostly parking will go. There are 150 odd parking lots on the highway missing from Gold Coast Light Rail 3, which is there used to be that many along there. And as I say, with the introduction of 3-hour maximum parking, it's not there. The other thing which is worth remembering, that under the legislation that applies to light rail, there is no basis for compensation by businesses for losses. Now that's in the legislation passed in 2010.
Thank you for your question, sir. Now, I'm going to insist that we leave light rail alone now, please. Can we just have some questions to do with what's here? What's your question, sir?
Oh, great. I'm the chair of the committee at Kura Beach Tourist Park. We reached out to Kath 6 months ago.
Excellent.
And since then we've worked very closely with Kath. She's been to the park numerous times and been a great help. Kath, a rhetorical question. Would you mind explaining, because you know exactly what's going on there, to the good people here, what they're actually doing, kicking all the pensioners out in 4 years' time with nowhere to go? You know the story.
Okay, thanks for bringing it up, Rod. I heard about the issues that were happening with the residents at Kura Tourist Park, and there have been promises from previous politicians. Mick de Brenny has been out there when he was the Minister for Housing, and his grand gesture was, I'm the minister, I can fix this, don't worry about it. Didn't happen. We had Sue Robbins, who really did try and do the right thing and didn't get very far with it. But then we had Gail O'Neill step in, and that was when I came in touch with Rod and the residents of Kura Tourist Park, and I offered to help them. Now, that wasn't received very well by the local councillor. In fact, it was Rodney.
If I could just quickly say, I received a very abusive phone call from Gail O'Neill the moment she became aware that we'd thrown in with her to help us in the park. Was not a nice phone call, was very loud and over the top.
Yeah, I'm told it was an 8-minute 40-second screening match. Anyway, what's happening with that is so far we've gotten to a meeting. Gail wouldn't grant a meeting to begin with. But since then, we've been able to reach out to Alton Twine and were able to get a meeting happening. But then it was held in Daphne McDonald's office for some reason. And all the excuses about you can't bring your team in because there's not enough room. So where we've got to at the moment is that we have an agreement. We thought there was a will, but now we're looking back into the history and trying to get a copy of the agreement that was made. Because the Shammy brothers owned the soft drink factory, and neighbouring was the Kura Tourist Park. The Chevy brothers closed their factory down and wanted to convert the land for housing stock, which made sense. They made money out of that as well. But the deal goes, and I'm looking for the information that in relation to council giving permission to change the zoning, it is said, and I'm still looking for the information, that the caravan park was to remain a tourist park. Now, we've had minutes of meetings from council that were very, very heavily redacted, and we've got some of it unredacted. However, you'll find sections of it where it talks about all tourist parks, permanent residents have the right to natural attrition. When you get the minutes unredacted from 2018, except Kira. Now, on top of that, it is really, in the meeting that we had, we finally did get a meeting, but it was held in Daphne McDonald's office, and my colleague Colin May, wherever he's gone to, was refused access and blocked at the door. And I had an injury, so I couldn't really do the scribing, and I was still refused Colin to enter, and I went in with two of the Kira Tourist Park members. The meeting happened, and since then there hasn't been a lot go on, but there's been an offer where I think 2 residents, is it?
Yeah, 2 residents, with your help, we managed to put a dent in council and they finally decided to cop some money up to the people in the converted caravans. 3 months ago we got nothing. We had a meeting with Kath, all of a sudden, oh, we found 60 grand for anyone that wants to go.
Now that 60,000 is going to, if they don't accept it now, it's on a sliding scale. It is unbelievable what's happening with the older people in this tourist park, and the lack of respect. But the question was asked, what are you doing to help these people? This is their community. This is, you go into any of those homes, it's a home. It's you know, it's a community. They've got their doctors there, they've got people that they call upon for help there, but they've been forced out with no help from Gold Coast City Council whatsoever. There is no plan. So that's where that stands. We do have, we're progressing the meetings, but we do have a lawyer that's possibly considering some pro bono work.
Once again, congratulations, Kath, to do that amount of digging and trying to hold Big Brother accountable is really what our city needs, in my view. Can we have another question, not on live rail, but something here or something that's on your mind?
Can I just make a I just wanted to ask Kath another question relating to
I couldn't see you, sorry.
That's all right. The Kira Beach Park, and that is, Kath, I understand that there were either 13 or 14 empty cabins, which basically had just had the electricity, etc., disconnected. And we do have quite a bit of a housing crisis on the coast. People have seen people living in tents. A lot of them were recently moved away from the airport area, which is quite close to the Kira Beach Tourist Park. I understand that Gail O'Neill had refused to have those have a building inspection and get the power, etc., turned on, which may have enabled at least 13 or 14 families to be home rather than living in tents. I just wondered if you could tell the community here a little bit more about that part of it.
They're in the process of tearing down about another 8 or 10 as we speak.
Okay, there you heard that. They're in the process of tearing down another 8 or 10. I have been at the park and I've been there to witness that they're decommissioning. They're saying they're uninhabitable. However, because they've turned off the electricity and the water, they are uninhabitable. But they could have easily have had an inspection. But everything that's been done on those homes has complied with council planning commitments, rules. So at the moment we've got many dwellings being ripped down at a state when we've got homelessness. And while I've been there, I don't know if you're aware, but no media is allowed in that park. They won't. I held a media conference and we had Channel 7, 9, 10, we had ABC, we have the Courier Mail, we have the Gold Coast Bulletin, and we had to get special permission, but now they won't allow media in there at all because it was a big success in highlighting what's happening in our communities, especially when we have such a severe problem with housing stock. We don't have affordable housing, as everybody is well aware of. So yeah, those dwellings are being pulled down as we speak in order to make it easier to do the changeover when they convert. Now the minutes from that meeting that I was talking to you about, they refer to this being a world-class training facility, a world-class hospitality training facility. Does that sound like a caravan park to you? Okay. So these people are being thrown out of their homes, and in that meeting we actually had Daphne McDonald say that it was actually council's right to change their mind at any time insofar as whether that's going to be a tourist park or whether it's going to be a world-class destination with training for hospitality. So these are issues. They physically tried to get me to leave the caravan park. I had a phone call. I had a Gold Coast City Council officer, Andrew Illingworth, telling me, you must leave the caravan park now, you must leave right now. And it's like, I'm here at the invitation and I'm having lunch with the Permanent Residents Committee. And he went on, and I said, I've heard you, Andrew, and I do hear you, Gold Coast City Council. However, I know my rights and I am not leaving here. I am here at the invitation.
Well, we invited you in.
Absolutely. And then the minute I hung up from him, there's a man standing beside me saying, you need to leave now. And I said, who are you? And he wouldn't tell me who he was. But he kept putting his hand in front of me pointing, you need to leave now. It was the manager of the caravan park, but he wouldn't acknowledge who he was, and he ordered me to leave. So that story is very sordid, it's uncomfortable, and yeah, you have to stand strong because they will try and bully you. And this is what's happening. Gold Coast City Council is bullying a lot of people. I've had cyberbullying running Save Our Southern Gold Coast, and there are politicians involved. You need someone who's strong, who's going to stand up and say, no, I know my rights and I'm standing here, I'm here at invitation, and no, I won't leave. He said, I'm going to call the police. I said, I'd be happy for you to do so. And that was the end of that.
If I can bring them over on the side there, please. It's over there, thank you.
Hello, Rollins. I would just like to say I really respect Kath's tenacity, courage, and her willingness to stand up for the real issues. That's a great list up there, and they are obviously issues that concern us all here. Kath now has my vote, and I'm not even in the division, but I would be voting if I could, and I'm supporting her committee. My one question is, how do we ensure that this woman gets voted to be a real voice on this city council? It needs her. How do we do that?
That's up to you. Would somebody else like to answer that? You need, for a start, you need people at polling booths handing out flyer to how to vote. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to ask a question. I had a fellow phone me a couple of weeks ago, a guy called Josh, and apparently he is running for a councillor.
Division 13.
Yeah.
Josh Martin.
Josh Martin. Okay, he's got quad boots everywhere, signs everywhere. But then I've been told that he actually works for the city council, and it's one of Tom Teague's set him up. Now, I don't know, but when you've got rumours like this and people like this, everyone's so confused. And Kath, I haven't seen any of your signs. Have you got signs up?
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
Can I just cut in there, man?
Yeah, go for it.
Out of honesty and respect, I used to work for the Gold Coast City Council controlled entity called Connecting Southern Gold Coast. We had one owner and we had an independent board. John Josh Martin was the last person to fill that role before that was collapsed into Events Gold Coast or whatever it's called now. So I think we need to keep all that in perspective. But thank you for raising it. I have no particular interest in whether Josh wins, loses or draws, but I do have an interest in the truth.
No, I only asked because he actually had my number and he phoned me and asked me what the residents of Palm Beach want. And I didn't have a clue who he was, so I said, okay, no light rail, no high rise. I went on and on.
Cold calling's a new form of polling and connecting in divisional electorates in the Gold Coast City Council to appear. But what about your signs? What can we do to help you with signs and all of that?
We do have call flutes out there. We have a new delivery, but we have a small group of volunteers that are getting very, very tired. So if anyone is able to assist, we've been doing letterbox drops as well, and there'll be another round that will happen. We've got letterbox drops about to happen throughout the valley. That's another 2,200 homes that we're letterbox dropping in the valley. One flyer will be what's on your seat, which is to our website, which is also encouraging people to donate so that we can keep this going. It costs a lot of money to run a campaign, and at the moment it's pretty tight. But the other thing we're doing, the letterbox drop is also including the notice of the next meeting. The next meeting is the 29th of February out at Tallebudgera Valley Hall, where we will be talking about valley issues and about, yes, they're affected by some of the stuff here, but they've got other issues that are very different to us, and they're more based around wildlife, speeds, and the breakdown of acreage into further dwellings or further properties. But what I wanted to do tonight was bring things right back to, so at the table over the back there, when you're leaving, if you can offer time to help with putting out some call flutes, we've got the stakes, we've got the call flutes, but if you can help with polling booths or pre-polling booths, please come forward. But what I really want to get back to is we were talking about the Currumbin Nippers Club, and we've got a couple of shots there that I'd like to be able to look at, because we've talked about the traffic diversions, but there's also an extreme discourse and some residents that are having a really hard time. Now, when Gold Coast City Council was building this club, they did do community consultation, but once again, community consultation was not heard. There were many community groups as well as lots of locals that submitted, and there were no changes made. Now, they are putting a transformer on land that affects residents rather than on their own property. Now, if you build a house, you have to provide your own capacity to do the water, to do the electricity, to do the infrastructure that's required. But here we have Gold Coast City Council taking public land and impacting locals rather than putting it on their own site. So how do you feel about that? Do you think that's fair for the people that live in Woodgie Street and Maraba Street? I mean, here we go, we've got a gentleman here who knows a little bit more.
That's exactly true, that all of the developers have the same scenario on all of the high rises, whether it's from Coomber to Coolangatta and block off not only footpaths, but streets, etc. And whilst they have these stop-go signs, etc., they're stopping people, and not just people that are taking their children to school or going shopping or whatever, but they're stopping workers do their work by stopping them in the traffic, making them 10 minutes late for an appointment, making them have to increase their charges to make up for this lost time. Now, having said that, if I may, I'd just like to go back a little way and talk about every discussion that we've had so far this evening. And the discussions basically have all come back to the governing people are doing the wrong thing. how in the hell have we got to this stage that we cannot find people or have people of integrity? And I know Jim's going to say to do it by your vote, and yes, but we've been trying to get our incumbent in 14 out for bloody ever since she's been here.
What I would say to you, can I just answer this and then I'll come back to the man who just had his hand up? Okay, so what I would say to you from that point is you have a rare opportunity right now. And yes, you're absolutely correct. Developers are getting away with so much. You know, the 50% uplift rule, are they fulfilling all they need to? No, the answer is no. So there's been, and now it's at the point where Councillor Hamill was down here at Gale O'Neill's last meeting, and he's clearly said, oh, we've had to throw the town plan out. It's going to take a few years to build another one. Well, it's already lost. It's done deal. However, you have a rare opportunity now. Councillor O'Neill is in trouble in so many areas of the community right now, and you have that opportunity. So it's not just lip service, it's actually a rare opportunity. But you also have the opportunity. There are several independent people running in council right now, and then how many people have you got running for mayor? So, you know, we need to be smart. I'm still doing my homework. We need to be smart. Yep, we need to be smart and get to the point where, you know, when it's time to vote, I will have done my research, and I hope that you will have done your research, and we need to unite to make sure the vote is not watered down. So we need to be clear on what we're doing here, because it's a rare opportunity in Gold Coast to be able to have the possibility to change things.
Just before I hand over to Peter. So there are 14 divisions on the Gold Coast. This is one of them. We're the 14th division here. There's another one in Division 13, another one in Division 12, all the way up to near Beenleigh. And what Kath's saying is, if you believe in her capacity to investigate and try to hold people accountable, this is our one division out of 14's opportunity to lead the way. Division 13, there are a couple of candidates there. People in Division 13 need to do their due diligence and ask their questions and see which person's going to do the best by that division. And the difficulty that we have in this city is that the mayor is popularly elected. Guess what? We've got about 60,000 people, 70,000 people north of Robina. There's 700,000 people in this city. But the fact that we are we're relatively small in terms of the population and therefore the number of divisions, doesn't mean that we shouldn't take a stand and support somebody who we feel has got a fresh approach to holding everybody accountable up in Bundall. There's a gentleman here in the red who'd like to, could we?
My name's Peter Wall. I'm associate. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Now, another fellow here, Chris, over here in the pink shirt with the glasses, who is in a committee which has been formed by the residents of Maraba Street. We all live in Maraba Street, and what happened was that Chris was notified by Councillor O'Neill that the centre area of parking in Maraba Street, which is not a park, is a road reserve, and that's going to be given over to Energex to site a transformer. And she had, now I think we've just got to be fairly, just listen to the background. So what happens is when they do something like this, Energex come along and says, we are now subjected to an increase in power needed for the Corunna beachfront because of the Nipper Club. They've changed their usage. Now when the Nipper Club came along, the build conditions, and I have a copy of the build conditions, says that they were going to place the transformer on that point. There was no written agreement. And what happened was they were in such a hurry to get the building done because of costs, which is fair enough. So they then, when the build had finished, the conditions were, we'll talk about where we're going to put the transformer. And Chris got a, do you want to come in? So Chris gets this communication from Councillor O'Neill. How do you feel you're going to lose your table? There's a table there. Now that goes back to early 30s. The trees there are 90 years old. There were 4 there, and since Adam was a boy, tables were around those trees. So they're going to put in a transformer that's 5 metres by 5 metres. It is about 4 metres high, and it's a metre under the ground where the stuff comes out. And nicely, they still will paint a mural on it. So we can imagine who else is going to paint it too. So the problem here was, the nippers, when they came, said, no, we don't want the transformer out front of our place. Take it away, which is, they're entitled to do that. So they all looked around and said, where are we going to put it? And we've been scratching our heads where to put it. Can't find a place, so we said, go to the park up near the rocks. Not too far away, it's a voltage drop. So there's a place going in front of Cora, which is where Houston is on the corner. Go 2 blocks north. It's over 4 stories high. It's got a huge infrastructure on the top. 2 pools, 2 machine shops, 2 kitchens, 2 toilets, a lift well, and a stairwell. And it's got a partial roof, but it's not a story. So this guy needs more power. So he's put in the application. He's been okay to build it. The council's gone fine. And we saw Councillor O'Neill, and she said, I can't do anything about it. So we now got a problem here with this power. They don't want it. Fair enough, the kids, that's fine. Or because they got a wonderful building, whatever the reasons were, that's their call. So we're now fighting this rearguard action where Councillor O'Neill tells me that Energex makes the decision where it goes because of technical suitability, which is fair enough. It goes through a conceptual phase, a planning phase, and then they go through a design phase. But talking to the head honcho from the Sunshine Coast of Southern Queensland for Energex, he said that's what the size it will be. So we've been racking our brains of how to get our table back and not have a transformer there. So we've been up to, Chris has been very active on petitions, which have gone in and been presented to council. We then come back and we get that maybe listing the trees, the remaining tree that's not as heritage listed, because where they're going to dig it is right amongst their roots. So we thought, well, let's have a look at that. So we've gone through the council looking at the arborist, the heritage group in the council. We've had a guy called Good luck. So if the luck's good, the council people are great, but it's now in this limbo of being classified as a heritage area. So, these things are very complicated. So when you talk about the council, Councillor O'Neill just rolled over. He just said, that's it. I can't do anything. And maybe she can't.
Okay, well what I would suggest to you is that I don't roll over.
Well, do you remember Betty Diamond?
Yes, I do.
And you all remember how she laid in front of the bulldozers? All that. And now, people may not remember that, but she did. And she stopped the mining at Flat Rock Creek for the Creekville mine. So there are things that we may have to go further down the track. We haven't gone with the press because once you put it on the press is only interested in it for that day and misses it the next day. It's another story.
And that's where it needs to be your community and your representative standing up and making sure it stays top of mind. Don't be rolling over, don't let it go. You need persistence. You need to be constantly revisiting and placing in the media and holding community rallies. You need to be visible because that's what's going to prompt more people to join you in the change. So Energex, the whole thing needs to be revisited, and if I remember rightly, the engineer that was at that meeting with Gail O'Neill has been asked to go away and send someone back that can answer some of the questions because it appeared that he was incapable. There was nobody taking notes. By the way, this is all being recorded. We are taking notes. That meeting that we talked about all of this, there was no one taking notes. It was an hour-and-a-half long meeting with residents' input. No one took notes.
That was a meeting for the wall.
That was for the wall, yeah, but that was also talked about Maraba Street being affected. Yeah, but when you look at these pictures here, What do you see? These tables, they're handicapped car spaces. So there's signs even. You can't get in there. And this is the owner of the business. What happens for the handicapped car spaces? Where are people getting special treatment? This has been sent to Councillor O'Neill. It has supposedly been forwarded on to Gold Coast City Council, and there's still no change. So what do you think Councillor O'Neill should be doing there?
And it was lodged as a formal petition, lodged with council.
How many? You had quite a few signatures too.
And they've ignored all of them completely.
How many signatures were on that one? I know we went over this.
350 local residents from the Roman area signed that petition formally with their names, addresses, signatures, email addresses, and clients no.
And that's where I tend to be more persistent. Do you know if that was tabled and accepted?
Yes.
It was accepted?
Yes.
So that means it's going on to the next section where somebody from a department is going to do a report on it?
It's now lodged after council is in recess.
Yes. Oh, well, they're in caretaker mode. Do you know, I had the same issue with a petition I put together recently, and it was about a better transport solution for the whole of Gold Coast City than just the coastal corridor. We couldn't get that tabled. Gail O'Neill wouldn't give me a meeting. Daphne McDonald wouldn't give me a meeting. I drove up to Councillor Hamills, the planning chairman, and got him to table it, and it was accepted, and now there'll be follow-up. But it's important that we do the follow-up to make sure they act on it and not let it just slip, because that's what's happening. You're not getting someone follow through.
The second petition was for the traffic chaos that will be caused when it goes over William Street during the Ocean Way construction period, which wasn't so big an issue to me in the start. I live in Morava Street, I don't live in William Street. If you could imagine anyone with 2,000 cars, you mentioned it earlier, when this bridge opens and the traffic starts going north from here, the northbound traffic will be diverted at the sanctuary and go over William Street. You can't walk up William Street now on either side of the road. You can't put a rubbish bin out in front of their houses. Yet they're expecting to have 2,000 cars a day and buses go up that street, try to wind across the top of William Street and down the backside to the alley, or down Morava Street southbound on the wrong side of the road, where cars try to park. You can't get there. Look at those photos. There's cars that park in the middle of the road, 6 deep, and it's going to be a U-turn area, Morava Street, because it's only going to be one way southbound on the beachfront. You can't get in or out of the surf club unless you go around over the top of William Street, down Morava Street to a U-turn. It's going to be chaos. If this bridge has taken 15 months so far, and the same contractor going over to work on the beachfront, according to council, that it will take 2 years at least. That bridge was 23 metres long. This is 275 metres of ocean way we're talking about. It will be a 2-year process, and the traffic will be shut down on the beachfront the day after Anzac Day. They start.
That's right. They were kind enough to say they won't do it till after Anzac Day, because we all know how important the Anzac Day ceremony is down at Corongton.
We're coming to towards the end of the meeting, so can I invite other questions, please? Yes, sir. On a different topics, if we can.
It's just an observation. I look around the room and I see very, very few young people. Now, we all know as older people, excuse those who are younger, but we know these issues are terribly important, and I think Kath's done a great job mentioning them. However, how are you, Kath, going to encourage the younger generation? Because they are the ones who are going to benefit. Not us, we're all going to be pushing daisies up or whatever. But seriously, I mean, I talk to them on Children Front, and you know, oh yeah, we're interested. I said, we'll go to the meeting. But, you know, and then when they go to vote, because they have to vote, you know, they get confused and they botch it, or they just don't know. I'm just curious how we get them.
Yeah, and I've been giving that a lot of thought too. And I have my son at the back of the room there. Put your hand up, Jackson. A younger person. events, talking to parents with children, generations of families that are growing through Greenmount I was at on Sunday. 300 nippers, 300 children enrolled in nippers there. So we need to be educating at a much younger level and getting into core groups to encourage people to stand up more. And the same thing with high schools, etc., you know, to be able to get interest groups, focus groups of younger people.
It's really the parents of those young people, really, more than anything. I mean, we have at least 300 children, and then we have more in Currumbin, but we just need to somehow or other make an attraction for them that they want to.
Take their devices off them. There's a question down here, madam.
So, I wouldn't be taking their devices off them. I would actually be using it to your advantage.
Yeah.
And there are ways through Facebook that you can reach out to others that is very, very cheap. I've been talking to your son about it, he has no idea, but I'm sure that there is a young person within your group that could help you go out to the community, and you put the postcodes in and be uploading every day in their faces, and they do read it. I've just had a look now, and you've got 1,000 followers. Gal O'Neill, she's been in for a long time, she's only got 2,500 followers, and I think you can get up there and hit the young kids.
I agree with you 100%, and I've been looking at that, and I've got those followers, and I'm hopeless with social media. So, but I've got Tracy and Ray who have offered to help me with social media. They're really good with this kind of stuff. I'm thinking Instagram and maybe TikTok.
So good. Yeah.
And then Samir, my friend, he has been with us from the very beginning. You know, he's been helping with websites and that kind of stuff. But we need to get the message out and start making short videos that will work on the likes of TikTok and Instagram, that will start getting a lot more younger people in there. So we've got to get more creative than, I mean, these forums are fantastic because you people understand what's going on, but we need to start encouraging younger people on, you can make a change. You know, I've had my GP actually say to me, oh, Kath, you know, I think I can do this, maybe next time. I said, why not this time? So, you know, more people standing up is encouraging others to do so. And if we empower younger people, then that's how we're going to get them on board.
We're looking for some more questions about what I call the hard issues in our community. So if you've got a hard issue question that you want to put to Kath or an observation you want to make for her comment, please go ahead.
Sure. Hi, my name is Nigel.
Just speak up, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
Yeah, sorry. I'd like to say I think Kath's doing an absolutely incredible job. And I know that it's not easy, the amount of work she puts in. And it's also not cheap. So just a suggestion, I know people are going through hard times, but if everyone could chip in, say, $10 or whatever they could afford, it's certainly going to help Kath with the campaign. I think she can get just more people to do that to help her. But she's going to keep going. Whether she gets money from you guys or not, and any little bit would help.
I'd just like thank you for your
Kath has a website, it's kathdown.com. I think it's actually on this flyer. And you just go on there.
Thank you very much for that. What the gentleman was saying is that these things cost money. These endeavours cost money, and Kath has a website, and if you would like to donate to her cause, then please go ahead. It's our cause as well, so please go ahead. Thank you for raising that. We're coming to an end. Are there any more hard issues, things that were up there before, or things that might come to your mind that are a little bit different that you want to speak to Kath about? Go right ahead, please, sir. Yep.
Hi, sorry, it's not about the previous topics. There is one really big issue, and that's how do we get this crook out of council? There is a massive problem with overdevelopment on the Gold Coast. We all know it. Doesn't matter where at the north end, in what division you are, the overdevelopment is wrong. And it's against the law, a lot of it. We've got it on the beachfront at Currumbin. There's a 12.5 metre height limit, and people want to put 4 stories there. There's a half a dozen properties there now, all trying to get 5 stories, 6 stories. They've already got them around the back near the sanctuary, and they'll continue to happen. Buildings that have got the pre-cern already, like Myoka and Rocks Resort, and someone with a big bag of money comes along and gives it to the council and it happens. Or the councillor locally who allows this development to happen as well. So we need to all act, and we do have a vote, a choice. Tate must go, and the local incumbent must go, otherwise we've got no chance whatsoever.
We're all agree with that. I don't know whether you, but a number of years ago in a past life, I actually stood for mayor. Let me tell you something. There's 80,000 people down here, and there's something like 650,000 people up there. Can you please go up there and tell them, because nobody could vote for Tom Tate down here, and he'd still win, because he's got very great support up where the people are, along the railway line. So please go up there and make that statement. I'm right with you, and I'm sure, well, I'm not going to ask Kath whether she's going to go that far politically. It's a matter for her to make that statement.
Okay then. I agree with you insofar as it would be wonderful to have a change from the top down. If you look at Professor Coldrake's report after doing his inquiry, his Let the Sunshine report, refers to the rot starting at the top. At that stage it was Anastasia Palaszczuk, and it goes all the way through our government, down to local government as well. So it is a really tough one. But what I aim to do is to stand strong and encourage others to do so. And there are other independents that are out there, and you really need to do your homework and talk to the people up north. You know, there are some good candidates that are emerging, so they need to do their job and get out there, but we need to choose and support who we choose down here and be more unified with it. But that's going to come with time as we do more research. Because, you know, you just can't go off the handle and say you support somebody without knowing all the ins and outs. And I think it's really important that we do that homework. We can definitely make a change in Division 14. But overall, if you've got the opportunity to influence anybody else, by all means, go ahead, because the northern suburbs need influence and support to realise that there are other choices. And I think that there's a few members up there now that are running that perhaps are getting into the heads of the people in the north, but that's for them to do, and we will have some more information closer to election time after doing a lot more homework.
You got applause, so well done. So we're getting towards the end. I'm still looking for some more hard issues, perhaps one more, and then what we might do is let Kath come down and circulate amongst you, and you can get to know her and ask her some other questions. But I'm looking for one more, if we can possibly do that. If not, well, we might. Yes, sir.
G'day, look, one that was on the top of your list, Kath, was your position in relation to the council and having an ownership of the local airport here at Coolangatta.
It's something that I've looked at and I have rather strong feelings on, actually. I believe it's a clear conflict of interest and should not happen, purely for the fact that that board of that airport is going to want to return on their investment, and that is going to be more flights coming in, and the way they'll do that is to mess with the curfew. But it's a clear conflict of interest. There'll be no protecting the residents if that goes ahead, because you're a part of a board that demands a return on its investment. Now, we've got a lot of that airport, the shares coming up for sale because it's not successful. I've actually recently met, his position is manager of parking and services. I think he might be a general manager of that section. And he says it's underperforming. Well, that's why Macquarie Bank want out. The way that airport can improve itself is to connect heavy rail. It's a budget airline carrier. People need to come from south of Brisbane to make it viable. We need the heavy rail connected to the airport to make the airport viable, and I'm very, very clear on that one. That is what needs to happen, and that is what stopped. It was supposed to be completed to Gold Coast City Airport by 2015. Why did it stop? It stopped to make way for the light rail, which is about developing the coastal strip, the infrastructure under the ground to make way and continue the development that they're doing, because otherwise you'd be standing in a new high-rise and wouldn't be able to flush the toilet. It's about the urban renewal underground. Heavy rail is really important for us and our airport, and for taking cars off the M1. There are many better opportunities on transport, and without going back down light rail, there are far better opportunities, and our team has gone there. You can check out Save Our Southern Gold Coast website. There will be further meetings that Save Our Southern Gold Coast will hold. It's just tied up a little bit with the election right now, so we want to make a difference in Division 14 while others are trying to make a difference across the Gold Coast city as a whole.
Can I just say, if there are no further questions, then what we'll do is bring the meeting to an informal close. But can I also ask you, on behalf of Kath and on behalf of yourselves, to let other people in Division 14 know that Kath has a rolling program of these sort of meetings. This is really strong democratic stuff. And I'd like to thank you, as your moderator this evening, for your participation and for the directness of your questions and for the manner in which the whole meeting has gone ahead. And I'm sure if we stay here for another hour, we might come up with one or two more questions. But Kath, I'll just hand over to you to have the final say, and thank everybody for coming.
Well, thank you all for being here tonight and for putting forward your information that's come to me previously to encourage me to be able to find other issues than what I was already aware of. And as an elected member, I will hold open meetings. There'll be days where you can come and call and have your view. Obviously appointments are great and I prefer them, but there's going to be a day where it's an open morning where you will have the capacity to come and talk to your local member and not be refused a meeting, which I've had multiple times, even on important matters. So I encourage you to scan the QR code. It will take you to our website. It will give you more information. Share it far and wide. We have an opportunity to make change, and let's not let that opportunity go by. It's time to show Gold Coast City Council what the people can do.
Thank you very much. I can come down to the floor and mingle with you and get to know her and ask her questions. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Drive safely, it's wet.